Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker here today, CSS Keyloggers in 2021, is Márk Módly. All yours, Márk.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm really happy that so many of us could be here tonight, and I'm really hoping to stir the water up. And basically, I hope that we will have an interesting discussion on this topic because CSS Keyloggers were kind of suppressed in the past. So, yeah, let's get into it. I think no one is allowed to skip the introduction part, neither am I. So, my name is Márk Módly, and I really love to teach. In fact, later I will share you why this talk came to life at all. So I spent a really large proportion of my life creating, breaking, and fixing systems around the world. And that's part of the knowledge that I really want to share with you right now. So I think that will do for a quick introduction. If you would like to get in touch with me, feel free to do so via Twitter handler @hardcoreitcom or at the given email address on the screen right now. So I think that was more than enough to talk about me. We are not here for myself, but for the content that could be formatted via cascading style sheets, aka CSS. So could I get a few hands up? How many of us had to deal with CSS in the past as web developers or in any form? And could you raise your hands up? I think this topic is really something that lives in our mind, and this gives sums up our experience with the topic. And I think that is kind of a start for a stigma for this whole topic itself. And this is why we are not talking enough about the scriptless attacks. Sorry, it is really late afternoon. I hope you are still awake because a lot of interesting talk was going on today, so bear with me with this one. Okay, so if you are not really familiar with the CSS Keylogger topic at all, we will have a quick introduction with it. But you need to know that it was discovered more than like 10 years ago, and in 2019 or 18, I think, it really blew up. There was a rediscovery, and everyone started to bash this thing after a while. And the person who actually rediscovered this phenomenon was bashed to death, and everyone was like downplaying the issue itself. So right now, we are handling this topic or this whole phenomenon like something that does not exist at all, because one time in the past, Twitter blew up, and basically everyone was stating that, oh guys, we are gonna die, we are not safe even when JavaScript is disabled on the sites. Do we remember this time? It was like, I don't know, 3 years or 4 years ago, when Twitter really blew up because there was something like a proof of concept project that was leaked. So, and we are still having these kind of articles on the internet. So, why this talk is here at all? So, as I mentioned, I really love to teach. And after the sessions, I love to stay and speak with the guys that are interested in controversial topics or not in the core that we should mention or we should talk about. And one of those topics is like CSS keylogging. And I had a surreal experience. Basically, one of the guys I was teaching told me that the company has a CSP policy that forbids them to set restrictions on CSS and images. And I was like, wow, you guys have a CSP policy. And I was amazed for a while, because not a lot of companies do that. And to be honest, I haven't seen such companies that have detailed CSP policies. But after a while, this amazement morphed into something else, because, you know, why on earth would anyone forbid to set or use a security measure or part of a security measure. And I asked the guys, why on earth would anyone do that? And they told me that, yeah, we read some articles on the internet, which you can see right now, which told that this is completely bollocks and basically a non-real scenario, and our CSP is already too long. Well, this kind of enraged me, and after the session that I taught, basically in 2 hours, I came to recheck or rewrite some software to check if CSS keyloggers are really nothing that we should worry about, at least a little bit. So, how many of us is knowledgeable about the Gartner hype cycle? Hands in the air. Have we heard about this stuff? So this graph is nothing more just the visibility of a specific issue, and I think this applies to CSS keyloggers. Of course, one of the axis is time, and in respect of time, how visible an issue is. So basically, if we are talking about this specific issue, the technology trigger was something like, I've Googled it, and it was, I think, Eduardo Vela, who discovered this whole topic or wrote a really interesting blog post about it, and it was really more than 10 years ago. It was 2000, let me get it, and 8, to be precise. So after 10 years, a guy named Max was doing research and rediscovered this shit, and sorry for the language, and we received the peak of expectation, inflated expectation. Basically, we overreacted the whole phenomenon, we overreacted the capabilities of it, and basically we started to freak out on that. After a small time, the whole IT security community went 180 turn, and did a 180 turn, and we basically started to dismiss this whole phenomenon, and we don't even think about it. It is something like a sacred ground, and we are not talking about it because, well, you know, your career or something could depend on it, because I read an article that this is bullshit. I like to achieve with this talk that we would not be afraid to revisit all the ideas and do research on it, because this is something that we are progressing further. So what our problem is, I think, is that we stuck in disrespecting a problem like CSS keyloggers. So let's see the most common criticisms about CSS keyloggers. The first is that very specific data is that we could downplay with it only. Only works with initial values being set on an input. Cannot handle repeat characters or repeated characters. And due to parallelism, we are not guaranteed to receive the whole string that we are trying to steal. We cannot handle mouse clicks. For me, it is oddly specific that in passwords field, we cannot handle mouse clicks, because I've never seen a person actually clicking in passwords fields and correcting their passwords, but okay. And to be effective, we need to inject huge CSS files according to the current stance. So, what if I told you that with little more than 2 hours work put into this, I was able to fix all of those points that were brought up against CSS keyloggers? I don't think that this bashing should be something that holds people back from researching or further researching ideas, and I think that is a really toxic behavior, that we pressure people into not researching topics because of the social stigma around CSS or something like that. So, if we are talking about static HTML, that's an old topic, but let's see some demo. Hopefully we will be able to do it with the magic of the live audience. About static data, I've prepared the sources, and I will be open sourcing it and sharing with you guys, because I do not really like to talk about code, because it is always clumsy. I really like to share. You could experiment it with later. So, what we have here is nothing else than a form. We could see that it is a plain HTML stuff, where there is a script which will come into play later, and basically a two-way binding is implemented on that, but that's not something of importance for us. We can see that there is an, which is the first demo, let me see, the CSRF token. If we refresh the page, we could see that a lot of requests was going on, and basically we can see that the whole CSRF token is presented. Let me zoom in because no one could see that, I think. I'm not sure that if it is better, just let's see. So let me scroll down. And we could see that indeed those different values are the same. And if we check the sources of the document, we could indeed determine that basically our CSRF token is the same that is displayed over here. Basically, it is a convenience part for us, as I put a little trick in the received CSS just to be able to see it easier. If you are interested after the talk, I think I would really love to share with you all of the details, but trust me, I'm not faking this. This is why I'm going to open source this stuff. And of course, we heard that there are a lot of things that going on with the same-site properties of cookies and stuff. Therefore, the CSRF token is no longer of interest that we could present, but of course, script nonces and stuff could be stolen as well with these tools that I wrote over there. Okay, so let's get back to our topic and talk about a bit about modern web applications. So I've already mentioned the two-way data binding in here, which means that into the DOM, basically, we are putting the values that we work about, or we put into our input fields. So it is present in most of the single-page applications, and in most cases, it is presented or implemented in a way on the page. So with this, we really could store some interesting data, which is other than the previously shown. And I'd love to share with you the details of it. And basically, a lot of criticism is coming from that, yeah, we could only work with initial values being set. But right now, I'm pressing F5, loading the page itself, and I'm freely typing characters into it. Most of us is familiar that we could steal data which is part of the English alphabet, but to be effective and to steal all of the data that we need, I implemented something that we could use other characters as well in here. Okay, we had another criticism going on, which is not able to detect the mouse movement or deletion of the parts. If I insert another character in here, basically it is working the way back and starts to rewrite the whole thing. So if I put it a few characters, and actually if I click in it, we are receiving these. I click with the mouse over here and put in one character, which is anyone's interest. Basically, we are able to receive those data on the server itself, and we are able to log it with the specific characters. So that's something, and I think let's get back to the application itself, or the presentation itself. And I'm way over here. Let's see what is the trick behind this. Because as far as I know, no one was able to do this before. And that's something kind of a novelty. I'm not sure. If you know about someone that already did it, besides The Simpsons, I'm happy to hear about it. But the whole solution is nothing more than the part of the Godon series. Basically, the whole comedy thing that we are looking at right now is nothing more than based on some kind of timing. The whole concurrency issues and other parts where basically we dismiss this issue could be get around with HTTP long polling. So a lot of people are younger here who do not have the age to be a web developer around 2000 or something like that. But before WebSockets and stuff, we had a lot of clever solutions to block the response to an HTTP request. And to answer that later, basically, we were able to do some kind of interacting, and we were able to do chats, for example, that were kind of a less brute force heavy on our servers because of the long polling solutions. So the trick is that basically we are blocking responses until we receive the feedback of the previously brute force character, and we are doing it step by step, character by character. So I really hope that we will not be afraid to revisit old ideas, get to the point and do some research on those in order to progress it further, because that's a core value of a hacker, I think. That's something that we should all strive for. And regarding this, I really hope that this does not blow up as the previous CSS keyloggers, because there are a lot of issues with it. I wouldn't want to invest a lot more in time, for jumbling, but I wouldn't invest more time to make it cross-browser compatible. So, hope that everyone is okay with me in here on the stage. So, there are problems with it. We are not going to die because of it. Your data is still safe if you use the content security policy, and we are not drawing the wrong conclusions. So, what do I mean by wrong conclusions? So, I went into a place that I'm contracting for, and one of my co-workers was there. And I told him that a chimney sweeper got hit by a cyclist at our house, which actually happened, not something to laugh about. But he drove the conclusion that looks like we are not safe on the roofs either. So as we could feel the absurdity of this conclusion, I hope we could feel the absurdity of drawing the conclusion that, well, you know, there is one use case where CSS is kind of useless, or in terms of keylogging. Let's never talk about it. So I really hope that we learned something about CSS, and we are not drawing a wrong conclusion, and at least we are not going to build policies that forbid people to use the right thing, which was especially created for that, which is nothing more than CSP. Thank you for your time. If you've got any question, feel free to do or ask.
Thank you, Márk. So who would have a question?
Can I get back the screen in order to show sources or something if there is a little time as far as I see? So if you guys would like to, I could share you the sources of it. Of course, if I'm selecting the right page. All of this stuff will be available. I'm going to open source it. And basically, those are the sources of the files. I'm not hiding anything. So I'm really glad that a lot of you were here, and hopefully a lot of people were able to follow that online as well. So what I'm really asking for is that do not write policies against security features. There was a hand over there. Yeah, actually I tried it with one password and cached it, as far as I remember. So the question was that this solution catches the password manager's password input as well. And as far as I know, what I tested, it does. So great question, thank you.
Just a quick one. I noticed that every request, I mean, every character type was like 100 kilobytes or more. Why is that? So if we get back, and this is why I love it when we have some time to spare, because we could back to the input demo, and basically I could type in anything. We've got it, and I think I'm going to put it in full screen in a new doc. So give me a second, I'm trying to show you. So basically, we were talking about the size of these things, and I really want to show you that these kind of generated stuff is not something that I wanted to show. The receive PHP, we are about the CSS gen stuff. So as I mentioned before, so okay. That we are brute forcing this whole thing character by character, and the whole stuff we are trying to do is using all those special characters with a lot of stuff. As you can see, there are 114 requests here and 1.5 megabytes total. So basically, this is because this has an extended key setup, which could be seen. Give me a second, I'm sharing with you, is because we've got in this special characters enabled. This data that we need to transfer is even smaller if we don't have special characters enabled, which, as far as I know, contains all the European characters that are used in the European Union. So for the Hungarians, I'm telling that I am able to write arvíztűrő tükörfúrógép into this thing, and it will give you back the goddamn thing itself. So we could do it if you are interested. And I'm finding the page that we should talk about. Okay, so that's it. So it's nothing about CSS is awesome and it's going to kill us, but it really is about that we really should not belittle possible attack scenarios, and feel free to do the research that you really want. No one should be able to down-tank you because you took a look into a problem. All right, is there any more question? Then if it is, please catch me. I'm going to be around here, so I'm not going to leave, even if you would like to stone me about the CSS topic, but feel free to do so.
Mark, many thanks.